As Hurricane Irma charged towards Florida, Manatee County officials held a news conference to inform residents of mandatory evacuation orders for those most at risk. "We just need you to be safe," Robin DiSabbatino of the Board of County Commissioners said at the briefing on September 8. She urged those in low-lying areas and flood zones to seek higher ground and consider staying at shelters. A screenshot from a Manatee County news conference on September 8 in which sign language interpreter Marshall Green Yellow Shirt baffled the deaf and hard of hearing, but for residents who were deaf or hard of hearing, the message was quite different. "Pizza," the interpreter appeared to sign. Then, "Bear Monster." He immediately drew ire on social media as commenters expressed their disbelief. Manatee County Emergency Operations: "Who is this person you are using as a sign language interpreter?" a woman wrote on Manatee County's Facebook page, adding that people's lives were being endangered. "This person is not qualified." The interpreter often appeared unsure of himself, and he paused frequently. His bright yellow shirt, a no-no for light-skinned signers, who typically wear dark clothing to help their hands stand out, did not help matters. "I appreciate you for getting an interpreter, but he's wearing bright yellow shirt. No one could see his hands," another person commented. "It was atrocious," Howard Rosenblum, the chief executive of the National Association of the Deaf, said. Rosenblum, who is deaf, said through an interpreter in a phone interview that the association considered what happened a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. "We believe that Manatee County failed to provide information to the deaf and hard of hearing community to the same extent that it provided to all others," he said. Experts who reviewed the video said the interpreter spelled the wrong words and gesticulated gibberish. Rosenblum tried to decipher the beginning, starting when officials announced the evacuation, but he could only make out a jumble of disconnected phrases. On that news was followed by "need evacuate" and later, "pray wait water." The interpreter also appeared at a news conference later that day wearing the same yellow shirt. The county posted highlights from its news conferences on Facebook, including a searchable map of evacuation zones and information about shelters. But being unable to understand the live news conferences put the deaf population on edge. "It was really a stressful day for sure," Julie Beacham-Hui, 47, of Bradenton, Florida, who is deaf, said through an interpreter in a phone interview. "I was watching the interpreter and seeing him spelling and spelling and spelling, and not fully signing," she said. "It was very hard to follow." She turned to the internet for more information, and relied on her sister in Nevada. "I asked other people if the hurricane was actually headed straight for us," she said. "I had no idea." Phyllis Corbett, 57, another Bradenton resident who is deaf, said through a translator that the interpreter was totally unqualified. "It really scared me," she said. "We're in an emergency situation here. It was a life and death thing." The interpreter, identified by the county as Marshall Green, could not be reached for comment. Nicholas Azara, a spokesman for the county, said in an email that Green, who is a lifeguard for Encounter Beach, has a brother who is deaf. Green was asked to sign because there was little time to find an interpreter before the news conference. "It is not unusual for family members of the deaf to have only a rudimentary understanding of American Sign Language," said Beth Barnes, a certified sign language interpreter who has several deaf family members, including her parents. Barnes, with help from her sister, posted a proper interpretation of the news conference in a video on Facebook that afternoon. "I just knew that it was very important information that needed to be shared immediately because they were closing the hospital," said Barnes, who lives in Clearwater, Florida. County leaders told the Tampa television station WFLA that they called on Green because they were in a pinch. But Rosenblum said the search for an interpreter should never have been done so hastily. Nearby Sarasota County used a qualified interpreter at its news conferences, he said. Charlene McCarthy, the founder of Viscom, a sign language interpreting agency in Florida, said that her company often provided interpreters to Manatee County but that nobody asked for help with the Irma news conferences. "I don't know why they didn't call," she said. The unintelligible signing was unlike anything she had ever seen, McCarthy said, with the exception of the man who masqueraded as an interpreter at Nelson Mandela's memorial service in 2013. Other interpreters have gained attention on social media for the opposite reason because they were universally admired. The sign language interpreter for Florida Governor Rick Scott earned praise for his animated expressions during Irma, and Lydia Callis, a celebrated presence at news conferences for New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, inspired online tributes as well as a Saturday Night Live sketch contrasting the styles of interpreting Bloomberg and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. McCarthy said she had offered to send a certified interpreter to a September 9 news conference, but the county declined and did not use an interpreter that day. Azara, the Manatee County spokesman, said he could not immediately comment on the matter. County officials are now taking steps to avoid repeating their mistake. The county is searching for a professional sign language vendor for future emergencies, Azara wrote.